Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's a little awkward because I have people here. I'm Kylie, if you don't know already. I'm going to UCLA and I'm currently an undeclared social science major.
I'm Amir. I'm committed to NYU to study finance and accounting.
Hi, I'm Cevan. I'm committed to the University of Michigan and I'm committed to study education policy and public policy.
I'm Jonathan. I'm committed to Yale and I'll be studying ethics, politics, and economics.
So basically how this is going to work is we're going to have a few questions and prompts that I've been asked a few times, and then we'll just kind of converse. And like on a baseline, when did everyone start their college apps?
I did July.
August for me.
May of my junior year, so right when we were ending our junior year.
I wrote like one draft of a personal statement over summer, and that was it. And then I started in August. Do you guys think that your college counselors really helped you?
Personally, didn't have a college counselor, but I think it could have been beneficial for essays especially, and I think that's one part my application really lacked in.
So we had the exact same college counselor. For me, he was kind of like a glorified therapist and I love him, but he was more of like motivation and encouragement to do things. Like I struggle a lot with deadlines, but like direction for like a narrative in my application, like how I want to format things, I kind of did that all myself, and we kind of have the same opinion on our college counselor.
I think to Amir's point, if you're the kind of person who struggles with writing essays, like that's the biggest part of applying to colleges.
Yes.
But if you are someone who's confident in your writing abilities, like I just don't think you're going to get good help.
Yeah.
You're better suited asking older people in high school and even just your friends. The best help I got by far was just like asking Amir to read my essays, or like asking it's much better, I think, than especially if you're paying somebody. Like I really don't think you should pay people to help you with college admissions.
Just to add on to that, especially if they don't really know you, they can't really grasp the message you're trying to get across in your essays, and I think that's an important part.
So what are some of the key factors you considered when applying to some of these colleges, and why did you choose the school that you did?
I can start with that one.
Yeah.
So I'm aiming to pursue a career in the financial industry, so target schools are really important, and on-campus recruiting is the main thing I looked at. So my future employers, I looked at where they were recruiting directly from and what events they were participating at certain colleges.
For me, I kind of a similar route to Amir, but I looked a lot at school culture as well. So the two things I looked at for being an education policy and public policy major, I also looked at the top programs and the top alumni network. So one thing I found with the University of Michigan, like really uniquely, was I never went to a school where, like when I wore their merch, like after I got in, where everywhere I went all across Las Vegas, in different airports, where everyone was like, wow, go blue, like how can I connect to you? And it was such an uplifting energy, and that's the main reason why I applied. But uniquely, like University of Michigan is it's second for both of the programs that I was interested in, and with my program, it was the first of its kind that was implemented for like a small cohort like education policy program. And one thing I really looked for is I really wanted like a small community thing. I applied to a ton of like liberal arts colleges, and I found that like my program kind of met in the middle of like the small culture that I wanted.
What were your personal experiences with college apps?
One trap I found myself falling into when applying was like, I really like the idea of the school, or and for me it was mainly the name. So like I originally wanted to apply to like I think 26 schools, and then I ultimately ended up applying to 16. So it like cut by almost half. And one thing I realized, like I was like, do I really want to go here? Am I only really applying here for the name, for the ability to say later like, oh my god, I got an X school, but I chose this one. I wasted so much time writing applications for schools I didn't really like at all. I just wanted to be able to say that I got into. Yeah, like other than that, like it was grueling, it was difficult, and I'm really happy that I had the people here, the people around me, like really lean on the people around you who are also going through the same process of like, wow, this really does suck.
An interesting fact that I told Jonathan actually was like 33% of perfect SAT scorers get into Harvard, and that really kind of shifted my perspective because the traditional acceptance rate for Harvard is like what, 2.4%, right? But yeah, but if you have a perfect SAT, that goes all the way up to 33%. So the perspective I kind of took was doing everything I can to increase my personal acceptance rate. I think the financial aspect is also something to consider. Like some of our friends applied to like their dream schools, but they couldn't afford it, so they ended up at their safety anyway. So like that's something you should consider before applying. Like if I got here but I have to pay this certain amount, is it really worth applying if I'm not willing to pay that amount?
How much do scores / GPA weigh into your application, and how did you study for the ACT or SAT?
I think it matters a lot. Like, I think it matters is more than.
Because aren't they like changing test optional this year or next year?
This upcoming cycle
is going to be
basically all the top schools
are going
back.
test mandatory.
Yeah, it matters a ton. The explanation that I got that was helpful is that the colleges are not looking. Of course, they're looking for excellence, but they don't really care that much the difference between a 36 and a 35 on the ACT, because it tells them the same thing, which is that you're prepared to take classes at a Harvard or an MIT or whatever. MIT is different, but just like a top university. So if you can do something to show them, basically I'm a good enough student, I'm smart enough to handle your school, then it's fine. And you can do that with AP scores, ACT, SAT, or if you have a really exceptional GPA.
Yeah, I think especially with test optional schools, it's always better to submit a score if it's even somewhat decent. Above a 13 or 1400 is still worth submitting, just to prove to the school that you're not getting an 1100 SAT. And on the topic of studying, I was able to get my SAT score up 90 points with minimal studying, and I think the biggest mistake.
What did you end up getting on that, by the way?
I went from a 1480 to a 1570.
Wow.
And I think the biggest mistake students make is taking too many practice materials on topics they already know. So there's no point in recovering topics you already proved your mastery on, and mainly focusing on the ones that you really miss. Yeah, so I studied with my friend Jonathan here. Actually,
that was the most effective thing ever.
Yeah, so it really worked out for us because Jonathan's really good at the reading and writing portion of the test, and I'm pretty good at the math and science portion of the test. So we each took our opposite parts of the test, right? So I took a reading and writing part, he took a math and science part, and then I just helped him work through the concepts that he wasn't familiar with on my mastered subject, and vice versa as well.
Went up by 2 full points on the exam. I went from a 33 to a 35 on the exam after only doing that a few times. It was such a huge help.
Yeah, and my language arts went from a 29 to a 36 after a couple sessions with Jonathan. So, yeah.
It was
On that note, if you want to buy his...
I think class rank matters more than GPA because it matters more in proportion to the rest of your class than to other schools, because I know especially at our school the GPAs are weighted pretty high. Each AP gives you 0.05 per semester, so I'll be graduating with over a 6.0, but I think it's really important to be better than the rest of your class. Just to add something, I would also recommend sending your AP scores if they're somewhat decent, and especially if they're related to your major. Double check on the schools you're applying to's policies, but some schools do consider that along with your application. So I think it's worth sending.
Sending threes or no?
No, not threes.
Yeah, coming from someone that didn't submit scores anywhere, only to the schools I was required to, which was just Brown, I totally recognize how much GPA and scores mattered, especially because my GPA is on the lower end in comparison to all 3 of the people around me. My unweighted is, because all of you weighted 4.0, 4.0. Or you 3.9, right?
Close.
I'd like it less than a 3.9.
A little less than 3.9. And then
3.974.
3.89.
Yeah.
3.89?
Yeah, mine was pretty bad.
So he's saying his is bad. Mine's a 3.7-ish. And looking at all of my schools and all the results that I got, I had more wait lists from top 20 universities than I did acceptances and rejections. So I was just constantly in that middle pool bracket because I couldn't demonstrate rigor through a score or through a GPA.
And because she's an excellent writer, she was in the wait list category.
Yeah, thank you.
That's serious.
Personally, I think tutoring and paid tutoring and paid study materials are a scam because there's so many free resources.
With one exception, Jonathan Adler.
That's Jonathan.
Add Jonathan Ford.
There's so many free resources online, and you can use your friends as tutors. You paying someone isn't going to make you more dedicated. Is what I'm trying to get at.
I do think it's worth it to buy a book though. If you're that helped me a lot for sure. The College Panda book. I felt like I had a pretty intuitive sense for math, but it was just I hadn't studied. I hadn't really done math in 3 years, so I was very rusty. My problem solving was just bad. But I thought I could really understand the concepts if I just looked at them. some of the Princeton review books and stuff, they're really long and like agonizing, but the college panda book is very short and to the point.
Looking back at your high school years, can you describe some of the activities or experiences that you believe contributed most to your application?
I guess I can start with that. For finance specifically, the schools really emphasize work-based experience and really having that hands-on experience in the industry itself. So a really big part of my application was the fact that I've had like multiple corporate jobs before, and I've really familiarized myself in a professional environment. Like I actually work for Kylie's dad. He's a financial advisor. So that was a really good point on my application and a really good letter of recommendation as well.
Yeah, I really leaned heavily on my extracurriculars because I did not have the GPA, I did not have the scores. So I have the term spike. Like I had a very, very distinct social justice spike. But the big thing was the organization that I founded in Las Vegas, the city we live in, worked with like 17 different student unions, worked with like 5 different like national and local nonprofits, and we worked together to plan events and just create ultimate community for our A and HPI communities. But then also it was like speech and debate. I held leadership as this is our debate president and I was our speech president, and we've both been those positions for the past 3 years. So like lots of leading in our community and building our program from the ground up, and then like qualifier and like state awards was pretty big for me.
I can't say I did anything special or creative, like I just worked really hard to win the speech and debate awards. And those were important. And then I took on leadership positions. I strategically, like whenever I could.
Second in the nation in LD and semifinalist in World Schools Debate, if you were wondering, by the way.
Tell you the truth, I was not going to apply to really top schools because I just didn't think I would get in until I won second at nationals. Someone texted me like, "Congratulations, you just punched your ticket to a top 20 school," and I was like. Wait, like low key, Yeah. So that's when I started giving my application texture. Yeah, so I started working at a seafood restaurant, not for the college application, but I think it helped. And I also took on it's kind of like state leadership for Key Club. Like it's the same thing. It's like regional leadership. I've been working for an international development organization online for like 4 years. I didn't write about it too much in my application just because like I thought it would sound kind of show-offy.
Like for me, I'm undeclared, so it was kind of hard to do what you guys did, like major specific stuff. So I kind of focused on like community service and like staying consistent with my extracurriculars. I try to showcase obviously community service, but also like hobbies, because I think a lot of us put like hobbies as well in our stats.
Yeah, you have to be a human person.
Did you get into your top school, and do you believe in rejection is redirection?
You're the only one who got into their top school. Yeah. All right, go first.
So firstly, I got into my top school. It was UCLA. It's always been UCLA. USC was pretty close, but then I got rejected, so it wasn't close anymore. But UCLA, like, I've just always dreamed of it, and I somehow got in, so, I mean, it wasn't an issue for me.
My top school was UPenn Wharton. I did get rejected and sent to my number 2 school, but I don't believe in
Rejection is redirection.
I don't believe in that. I think thinking that is a way of coping, but just think about like where you'll end up instead. If it's not what you expect or what you wanted previously, then you're just gonna have to work harder in college. I ED'd UPenn Wharton and I got deferred, and then I decided to ED2 to NYU Stern, and I got accepted.
So my number 1 was Northwestern, and I was rejected. So I think all of us, which is really funny, are going to our number 2s. Because NYU, Umich, Yale. Northwestern was my top school, but I ED'd a different school.
And then you were also gonna ED a different school.
Yeah.
Cevan doesn't know. Cevan has no idea what her top school is. Yeah. You don't need rejection to be redirected. You do your own redirection.
Yeah. I did my own redirection. So I guess I don't believe rejection is redirection. But like truthfully, like neg all this and all my indecision, like I do believe it is. It allowed me to really look at like my worth as a person outside of like my own application.
Yeah. So I did apply restrictive early action to Yale. The primary reason for that was because I was working on both Yale and Harvard at the same time, and my Yale application was just completed and I felt good about it, and I know there's an advantage to applying early, so I was like, I'm just going to submit my Yale application because I thought my Harvard application needed more work. And then I applied to Harvard, and I was still waiting on the Harvard decision because that was my number 1 school, and I got waitlisted. I kind of think it is redirection, the reason I say that is everyone that I met, cross admits, Princeton, Harvard, Yale, everyone said that they loved Stanford and they loved Yale, and they felt like they really did not like the environment at Harvard. They said the same thing about Harvard and Princeton. Those are probably the two top universities in the country. But something that comes with that environment is also the kind of person that goes there is like a kill or be killed type environment. And that's what everyone said. They're like, it was cold, people were rude, I didn't feel welcome there. Like, and that's just overwhelmingly, like from not just one person, like 5-10 people. And so a lot of people actually chose Yale. But yeah, I think it's redirection. I would not do well in the kind of environment that, you know, is like very, very competitive and cutthroat.
You guys visit your schools before committing?
You've never been, have you?
Yeah, I personally...
He still hasn't been.
Yeah, so I've been to the cities where I applied to schools, but not the schools specifically. But I generally thought I had a good idea of what it would be like at the school, just researching online and stuff. But if you can't really like envision yourself there, I would recommend visiting.
I was doing the guess and check method. He's like, it'll be fine, you know.
I think like the tours helped a lot, just like campus tours before, because you could see like with your guide too. Yeah, your tour guides, you can tell if they're actually happy or not, and like if they really genuinely love the school. I think it impacted me a lot. But how has being surrounded by our friend group impacted your mindset throughout the process?
Go first, Kyle.
Honestly, like, especially with you getting in early, we had several friends, like, apply early action or early decision. Everyone got rejected outright except for this guy. And, like, keep in mind, his, like, extracurriculars are insane. So it kind of just, like, my expectations were very low after that. I was like, if they can reject these other people who still have amazing extracurriculars early, too, because early helps your acceptance rate. And we talk about it so much. Like, it was annoying how much we talked about it.
There was not a second that we were not talking about college apps.
He dropped me off from work one day, like here, and then he was like, before you go, can you read my essays? And I was like, okay. And he already submitted too, so like there was no reason for me to read them.
This guy's pen essays after he was like,
Yeah, I was like, what?
And also in Gov, I sat next to Kylie in Gov, and we would both be working on our college essays. And every once in a while, I would just like see her eyes look over, and I would turn my computer, and she did the same thing. Yeah, that's what she swears.
He turns the brightness.
I would turn the brightness up. It was a different time.
Yeah.
By the way, I think it's better. I would take this experience over being the only person at your school or in your friends that's really trying to do it. We created the atmosphere here. And I think it was manufactured. Had it not been for like us and a few other people like really just always talking about it, some of our friends who did end up applying to like a lot of schools just wouldn't have, you know? So the environment that you create and surround yourself with, it just matters so much.
But also, like, I feel like there was so much pressure in our friend group to get into a good school.
Yeah,
It grew as more and more people.
Yeah, because you got Yale and then Columbia happened.
And Sammy got into USC. And it just started like, it just seemed like oh wow, like all my friends. Wow, okay, there's another one.
All it takes is one acceptance, and
Yes.
the weight off your shoulders will be immense.
But yours was like hella late.
Yeah, mine was the latest. Mine was the after like dude.
Everyone was already like decided where they were gonna go to college. Cevan, he's like, I haven't heard back from
I have
these
10
schools
wait
yet.
lists.
Yeah, so like everyone was like, yeah, I already know where I'm going. And then there was the last few weeks, and I had 8 straight freaking wait lists, and then the last school that came out was the one that I'm committed to. So,
Did you guys get off any of your wait lists? I know American.
did you stay on and send letters of continuous interest?
I did not send a letter. I just clicked. They just asked me if I wanted to stay on. I was like, sure.
The only wait list I stayed on, well, I only had UWash and Berkeley, but I stayed on Berkeley, and that was really it.
Harvard is the only other one for me.
I got waitlisted from Georgetown, but I withdrew it because I couldn't imagine myself going there over NYU.
Did you already know you got into NYU?
Yeah, so I applied ED2, so I got my decision back in February.
You made it so that you didn't have to commit immediately, right? You did something.
I mean, I paid the enrollment deposit, but I still had means to withdraw my application based on financial need.
That might be an interesting conversation to have because that happens to a lot of people. Like they apply ED or ED2 and then they're like, oh, actually, since I've applied there, my top school has changed.
I think
Go.
I think it's school dependent, but at NYU specifically, they were pretty lenient about getting out of ED, especially if your financial aid package isn't really what you expected, and they're really broad with that definition too. So they don't really have any requirement for you withdrawing your ED application as long as you claim that your financial need wasn't met.
Is there a question of like worth of spending like full tuition or like choosing between a school that's more expensive?
You should pay full tuition at every college.
Well, I mean, for us, we're paying a lot.
Yeah, we're both paying $100,000 a year.
Whoa. 84.
Oh, you're paying 84?
Okay.
I'm paying $100,000 a year to go to NYU, but the reason I think it's worth it is because of the job opportunities it's going to open me up to. I'm looking at a salary of $150 to $200 right out of college total comp, and there's also heavy employer bonuses on paying off student debt. So that's really, I think the major thing to consider is your salary coming out of college. Is it really worth taking on student loans? And in my case, it was. So that's how I came upon that decision.
I mean, honestly, like for my case, UCs are extremely expensive and out-of-state scholarships are very rare, just like financial aid in general. So like the plan was if I didn't get into UCLA, which was like my top school, then I would have just went to a state school and like saved the money from that. I don't think it's worth it paying full tuition for a school that you don't think you'll be completely happy with.
And a big question to come with that, like paying, especially for like paying the price for like a name brand school, is also if you're considering to go to grad school, like anything post-secondary, if you're going to go to law school, especially for like finance majors, you're not going to go to a grad school, you know, like fresh out of your undergrad degree, but versus you and I, like we're going to get graduate degrees.
Yeah, like if you want to be a doctor, I don't think you should be spending a lot on undergrad.
I do think it's different from profession to profession.
Yes,
like
I completely agree.
for medicine, it does not matter, but for law, it matters a lot what law school you go to.
Do you guys want to talk about letters of recommendation and how you chose the people?
Yeah, I think we want to talk about this. So
You started it, so...
Camera's on, mic is there, just go like this.
Okay, so while we're on the topic of being a human person, I think like letters of recommendation is a great way to demonstrate that. So who did you choose for your LORs?
I chose my teachers based on who would say like, yeah, this guy is a good person, like someone who's has good character. They're a leader, and particularly something that I heard is important is when they say something like that person is well known on campus, because it speaks to your involvement, especially when it's a counselor, someone who deals with everyone. Like if they're like, yes, like I know for a fact the student is involved because I see them around all the time. Right? That says something about the kind of student you'll be at a college. That was something I was looking for, teachers who just like know me. And that's the main thing, is that they know you well and they can speak to your character, and also that you can have a conversation with them about what you want the letter to say.
I think when getting your letters of rec, I think there's like 3 things you should look for. The first one, like we already covered, like people who can like earnestly like display your character, like what Jonathan talked about. But the second thing also is like confirm that your achievements and stuff are real. For example, like I don't know, like your plan director. For me, it was the executive director of the organizations I worked for. Like, yes, this person's community projects are real. We can demonstrate these things.
One mistake I think a lot of students make with using a letter of recommendation to confirm achievements is they use someone who doesn't really have anything to do with those achievements. Like if you made like a really big nonprofit outside of school, like why is your math teacher talking about that? Like it's really clear that you told them to say that. So I think if you're getting a letter of recommendation to confirm your achievements, have it be from someone who is also involved in them. Like if you're a really good performer at work, have your boss write it. Yes. Or if you're really engaged in your classroom, like in your calc class, then have your calc teacher write it. Yeah. Or if you really advance the club in your school, have the advisor write it. I know like you're not supposed to read theirs, but if you can get like an idea of what they're gonna write about and how they're gonna praise it, try doing that.
The way it works for college applications is you waive your right to read their letters. So when you waive your right to read their letters, they submit directly to the colleges, and you do not see their actual letters for college applications.
And you like can't not waive your right. Like it's
you
it's
have
not
to
really
waive your
optional.
right. They can choose to show you, but they shouldn't.
Yeah, they're not supposed to.
So point is, you don't see the real letters. You have to do a summer program strategy, like You just pretend, or if you're applying to a program, that's great. But you just say you're applying to a program your junior year.
I did scholarship strat. I said I needed a letter of recommendation.
Yeah. So what you do in your junior year is you ask the teachers who you think you will ask to write letters to write you a letter for a program.
Okay. To end, what did you wish you knew before you applied?
I mean, I guess I can start. I think I wished I knew what I wanted to do earlier on in my high school career, and I think that's the biggest part of applying to college is having a narrative and kind of building every experience in college and everything you've impacted towards what you want to study in college. So before my junior year, I thought I would go into the medical field because of like parental pressures and like performance in biology and chemistry, but I wasn't really interested in it, and I learned my interest just through experiencing new things, and I developed a keen interest for business and finance, and it kind of was really hard for me because everything I'd done up to that point was based on an application of a student who wanted to study medicine and go to med school. But shifting towards finance, where the undergrad you go to is especially important, kind of shifted the coin a lot for me. I really had to kind of lock in and rebuild my whole narrative starting my junior year.
For me, I think the biggest piece of advice I wish I could go back and tell myself is, yes, I can very easily get into like, oh, I wish I had better grades. I wish I focused more on my scores, and I wish I started early. And yes, all of those things can be true. But in all honesty, like, I think the thing I would tell myself is like, you are enough before the app, you are enough after it, you are enough after your dream school acceptance, you are enough after your like dream school rejection. So like I would go back and tell myself like, giving yourself your best shot and learning from it, like either in like early applications that you submit, is better, and like making the effort to try and stuff like that than it is to fail. Like I was so terrified of failing or the comparison of my peers around me who were getting into great schools, that it ultimately just like prevented my ability of like better opportunity for myself.
I think probably two things. One is believe in yourself. Just don't shortchange like your applications for schools you think you're not going to get into, because all kinds of people get into the best schools, and it's like just I'm like, and I don't mean this in any negative way, but you just meet people and you think like, wow, like for all of the pressure and stress I imagined like I needed to endure to get into a top school, like this person, I met someone at Yale, and their number one extracurricular was that they did farming, and they just worked on their family farm, and they were like that. They did that like 60 hours a week. They worked on their family farm. They went to school, and they were the president of FFA, the Future Farmers of America Club, and obviously clear narrative, good scores, extremely intelligent person. But there are probably lots of people like that who would just not apply to top schools because they think like, well, I don't wear suits, and I don't go to math competitions and speech and debate, right? Like you just don't do these things. You don't think of yourself. Anyone can get in anywhere, so just don't shortchange yourself, and ask for lots of help from other people. The worst thing you can do is, sometimes it's healthy to think of everyone as your enemy so you can focus, but everyone is not your enemy.
Yeah, I would honestly say the same thing of like, not setting your expectations low just because you're comparing yourself to other people. Because I had like a lot more school-based extracurriculars compared to them. Like they have a lot of outside of school and like really impressive outside of school things too. So I applied to UCLA because it was my top school, but I didn't really think that I would actually get in. But I would also like emphasize the point of essays, like how important it is to actually like convey that you're a human and like your personal experiences, and also not taking it personal when people criticize your essays, because in the end it's going to be beneficial towards you. And like honestly, like there were times I didn't ask him for help because I was like, if he tells me my essay's bad, I'm done for. Which I kind of regretted after he got into Yale. But well, that is the end of this video.
Thanks for having us, Kay Wong the money.
Yes, guys. Thank you guys for watching. I hope to see you guys in my next videos, and maybe you'll see them again. Oh, I'm going to film senior trip too, so you will see them again. But, okay. Bye, guys.
Bye, friends.
Very nice.
Okay, I don't need
Wait, you want to make a spike sound again? Do I need to clap?
I don't need an ending. Oh, man.